Join us for a very special episode of Magnify as Pastor Jared sits down with my wife Ingrid and myself. Get to know us better as we share how we met, hear stories about Ingrid's time in Alaska, as well as what it's like to be a family in ministry. I'm your host, Aaron Miller, pastor of equipping at Grace Baptist Church in Santa Clarita, California. Welcome to Magnify. Ingrid's a good shoe girl. You got good shoes. eBay?
I love.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you find a brand you love and you know your size.
And you find them on
And eBay. I've gotten Aaron jackets from eBay, like sizes I know he likes.
Yeah, you have a lot of shoes, babe.
I've never had a bad
complaining.
experience from
eBay? Really?
Like everything has always come on time.
Huh.
Yep, never.
I don't know why. eBay's always scared me.
I have a lot of shoes because I'm getting, like $150 shoes for $30.
Oh, I'm not complaining. I think.
Oh,
they
I
look
didn't
great.
think you were.
Okay.
But I'm just proud of that.
Well, let's get into some marriage counseling here. What are some of the other challenges you guys walk in?
Wow, eBay is actually paying us to
We were trying to get a sponsor, and all we could get was eBay.
eBay.
Listener, I'm here with Aaron and Ingrid Miller. And if you don't know, Ingrid is Aaron's wife, better half in every sense. I want to know everything. I know him. I want to know everything about you, Ingrid.
I'm looking forward to this.
Tell us about your background first. Where are you from? And then eventually tell us, kind of meander your way to how you met Aaron, and then talk about why. Why, Aaron?
Okay. How about a little timeline,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yep.
And then I'm getting too nitty-gritty. Just cut me
No,
off.
we want all of it. We're going 4 hours,
All
so
right.
it's fine.
Okay. Texas, 1983. I came into this
You
world.
were born in Texas? I didn't know
Yes.
that. What part of Texas?
Army base, Fort
Okay.
Hood, Killeen, Texas. A couple of years, and then my family moved back to Minnesota, where my dad is from.
You did have the lilting Minnesotan accent when you said Minnesota.
I say pop,
Yeah?
so
No,
I don't
I'm
know
from
if
Ohio.
that's...
I say pop. Yeah.
But then I was in Alaska for 15 years, so I
For the
don't
rest
know.
of the United States, we just kind of think you all the same. Minnesota, Alaska, just y'all talk the same.
There are a lot of Minnesotans in Alaska.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's about the same coldness. Yeah.
Yeah. So first grade, my dad got a job as a police officer up in Alaska. He was a police officer in Minnesota. So we moved to Barrow, Alaska, which is in the Arctic Circle.
Okay.
No roads out. You can only fly
Seriously?
in.
You can only fly in.
Only fly in.
It
So then,
is the highest north point in the United States.
Oh, my gosh.
so
How did...
back in,
Was he on AlaskaPoliceJobs.com? Like, how do you find a job like that?
I believe there was an ad in a newspaper. So Bertha, Minnesota. Yep. Good fun name.
Yeah.
Little tiny town. He was the only police officer. A newspaper came across his way with an ad for police officers in Alaska. And they just wanted to have an adventure. So my brother and I, he's a year and a half older,
Okay.
1989, moved up to Alaska.
Wow. Okay.
So, yep, started first grade, but Arctic Circle, no trees, tundra.
Godless. Completely godless. Like, needs the gospel, right?
Yeah,
It is
there
a-
was very few, like there's a Mormon church, just very small. They're like a small Catholic church, a small...
Roughly how many people in the town of Barrow at the time?
Back then, it was the biggest village in a series of villages, so 3,000, 4,000, so a little bigger.
Obviously, there's a school there. There's stores. Did you guys only stay in the village? Like every third Thursday, you got on a plane and went somewhere? Like,
So we lived within the community. So driving to AC, which is the grocery store. So even back in 1990, a gallon of milk was $6 because everything is flown in.
yeah.
Now, living up there, everybody is paid higher.
Okay.
So officers, hospital workers, they kind of import a lot of professionals and they're paid really, really well, which is the draw, and also oil workers.
Okay. So what was it like to grow up there? Like, what are some things you remember that were really cool? And then, I mean, aside from the tender part, what was maybe less
I would
cool?
say as a kid, wherever you live is exciting.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, everywhere is fun. You're not concerned with the trappings or and like what your house looks like, status. So that just kind of goes out as an encouragement to parents when you're so concerned with like how your little kid looks. So for parents, don't be so concerned about expensive tennis shoes and trappings because a little kid doesn't care just as long as they are loved and warm and fed. So yeah, growing up in Barrow, Alaska, it was an exciting experience. Going to native festivals, seeing whaling
Oh, okay.
in the fall.
Yeah.
There's an
where-
old National Geographic video where all the Inupiat kids are sliding down the backside of a whale kill that they brought onto the shore. And Jeremiah, my brother-in-law, is like the one white blonde kid.
Going
in
down the
group.
whale
yeah,
slide?
there he is. Oh, there's Jer. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So lots of fun experiences. 24-hour darkness in the winter.
Okay. What is that like?
That is, I would say, is probably the most trying thing.
Did you have one of those little lights that brought you hope and
A
sunshine?
lot of people did like tanning booths.
Yeah.
Are very popular. Like we had one in our house for my mom. But yeah. And then 24-hour light in the summer for about a month.
Okay.
And then a varying amount of light in between those points. So like the longest winter day, was it like the 20th of December, like the winter and summer solstice?
Yeah, our first Christmas as a married couple, we flew in on December 21st into Barrow. We went to Barrow. Her parents had moved back up there. And I just felt like a complete fish out of water. Like I married a woman who's not from the United States. That's how I felt. I'm like, this is a different country. Because for all intents and purposes, it is. But we flew through the Northern Lights where the plane is landing and you're just watching all this
seriously?
glowing activity around you.
Jeez.
And the plane lands. And it's dark, of course, so you feel like it's the dead of night, even though it's like 11, you know. And I don't have a parka. I've never needed a parka. And there's no tarmac. The thing doesn't like pull up where you can then walk into a tarmac aisle or, extender into the airport. Nope, you have to walk outside. It's like Burbank, folks. And dude, as soon as I got off that plane,
Yeah, no.
my nose sticks together. You could feel your eyeballs crystallizing. You can't help but like crunch your face up like a foil ball. Oh, it was horrible. Horrible.
And Ingrid just goes, home.
But it was magnificent at the same time. Really incredible place.
I have got to ask about bear stories. I assume probably numbers in the dozens. Polar bears? Anything?
In the dead of winter, when food is scarce, there will be bear sightings. And then you start to hear warnings around town. Don't walk anywhere. Not that you would want to. It's below zero with a windshield that makes it feel -50.
Oh, my word.
Well, the polar caps, the ocean freezes so they can just walk in on.
You can walk on the ocean?
It freezes. So
The Arctic Ocean freezes, yeah.
The bears are able to walk into town. Terrifying.
Yep. So you see them they're usually further away. You leave them alone.
Basically,
they'll
everything in
leave
Barrow
you
is trying
alone.
to kill you.
Yeah.
So the first winter Aaron visited, we went out driving just to see the sights, went into a parking lot and just kind of sat there. And then a polar bear jumped up from around a trash can.
Well, what had happened, how it happened was her family's close to a family of firefighters. And so they had radio where they would hear if there was a sighting. And dude, it's a polar bear. If there's an opportunity to go see a polar bear, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, we got some chatter on the radio, and it was out near the dumpsters, out near the dump, that there was a sighting. So Ingrid and her brother and I jump into the truck. And by truck, folks, it's a big truck. It's not like a little toy truck. It needs to be a big truck. And by the way, you stay in the truck. I learned. Polar bear, right?
Yeah.
It's the biggest thing out there that it knows of. So don't tease it. And so we drive out to the dump, and we park, and we're waiting to see, like, okay, well, here's the dump. Where would this thing be seen? And it was behind this dumpster, and it stood up.
Jeez.
And I just lost a sense of myself. It was awesome.
Did it have like the red scarf and the Coca-Cola in its hand at that moment? Or is that just back at their home base?
Well, we also had this on video. It's like the old cassette videos that we had back then.
High 8.
Yeah, that's right. And the bear kind of got a little spooked and started going up and over the embankment back out into the ocean. And Jeremiah turned the truck off.
Oh.
You leave the truck running. He turned the truck off. The bear turned back around and started like not like charging us, but just walking back in our direction. And it's on video. And then on video, I'm going like, hey, Jared, turn the truck on. Seriously, Jared, turn the truck on,
Using all your Jurassic Park lines. Must go faster.
No, it was awesome. And he turned the truck back on and the thing, ran away.
Because you have all the stories of polar bears pulling people through windows.
No way.
Like breaking windows.
That
and
happens?
They do that with seal, though.
That happens in the Bay Area, too, but it's different. Yeah.
They do that with seals. Well, they'll thump on the ice. The seals will come up and they'll crash through and grab them. And that actually happened. There was a story that their family friend talked about where, it's dark outside. And so when you're inside with the lights on, what do you do if you want to see out the window? You kind of put your face up close to the window to peer out.
Oh, my word.
And a polar bear crashed through and grabbed the guy.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Well, that's another fear. I already am scared to look out the window at night because there might be a clown out there. Now I got to worry about a polar bear, too? Jeez.
Oh, man.
That's terrifying.
That's usually like a remote location. So people who stick around City Central, the lights, and neighbors, you're doing well.
So how did you get from Barrow to North Carolina where you went to college?
Okay, so my dad got a job in Southern Alaska as an officer as well. And the main reason for the move was my parents wanting to get us into more of a church rhythm. I grew up in a believing household, but just the opportunity for church community wasn't real strong in Barrow. So we made the move to Southern Alaska for educational reasons and also to get more involved in church.
Tell them about where, babe. Where in Southern Alaska? There's some people that are familiar with where you live.
So Kenai, Alaska, the Kenai Peninsula. And it was in Kenai that we went to a Southern Baptist church where I was then exposed to the Southern Baptist Seminary in South Wake Forest, North Carolina.
Yeah. So when, at that point, let me back up. When did you come to faith in Christ? Was that around that time? Was it before that?
Because I grew up in a believing home, I can't pinpoint it, but just grew into my faith and a love for Christ. And when I was a junior in high school, we had a visiting professor come from Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, Wake Forest, North Carolina, Kai Kerrigan. And he had a message that really piqued my interest and turned my heart towards wanting to be in ministry and being more grounded in faith. And it was at that time that I began looking at Southeastern and made the decision to go there for college.
I just want to brag on you because you were valedictorian in your high school and you had scholarship offers to go to University of Anchorage. I think there were some other schools in there as well. But you chose because you did have a rejuvenation of faith, right, around the age of 18 or whatever. And Kai Kerrigan, God used to do that. And you decided to go to Wake Forest, which, praise his name, she did, But her mind, her intellect, she could have gone so many different places, and I praise God that he directed her where I was.
Yes and amen.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes and amen.
Continue the interview. I'll back out.
So then I guess senior year was when I put the process in towards going to Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, the college there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the first 2 weeks there, I met Aaron.
First 2 weeks?
First 2 weeks.
Let's hit pause there. Aaron, let's go over to you.
I'm a year ahead of her in college at that point, and I was the student body president. You can call me Mr. President.
You're not going to dodge this. I want you to talk about the time you met
No,
Hillary Clinton.
I'm getting there. So because I was part of student government, when the new students were coming in, the new freshmen were coming in, I was responsible for setting up the matriculation process and, recruiting volunteers and posting them different places through that process. Now, what I'm about to say, I don't recommend. I'm just telling you what happened. So I'm rebuking my past self as I'm hearing myself speak about this. Okay. So I was just checking out the scene. You know what I mean? I never had a girlfriend. And here was an opportunity in a godly environment at a Bible college to maybe meet somebody. And so I'm just I'm looking. And so I make a deal with some of my friends because when you recruit people in student government, you always just recruit your friends. And so my friend Bobby, I said, hey, Bobby, listen, as the new students are coming through the line and they're getting their mailbox number and they're getting their email account and then they're going to get their dorm number and everything, is it cool if I set up a false station where you check their paper and you just kind of figure out like their name and maybe what dorm they're in? He said, yeah, no worries, I got you. So there was this, he was down the hallway and he was in that corner, and I just said, okay, that's your post, and just act like you're supposed to be given the check, but wait for my signal. So Ingrid comes through. And admittedly, when I first saw her, I didn't think, gee, I hope she has a great personality. That's not what struck me. She's a beautiful
I hate
woman.
the stories where it's like, I was so attracted to their love for people.
I'm rebuking my past self as I'm saying this because I love her because she reminds me of Jesus. But anyway, so I went to Bobby, and Bobby, I'm like, this one, get the information on this one. And so I figure out
little Sharpie marker on her arm.
Her name, that her name is Ingrid, and she's in Lolly room 104, Ingrid Paskewitz, and she's from Alaska. And I'm thinking, man, this girl is out of my league already. Just the way she just walked up and asked me a question, I was cotton-mouthed, and I sent her on to Bobby because I couldn't even bear to look at the paper myself without shaking, So then what I did is I created like a hangout at the Ledford Center with new freshmen, all organized with student government money, all organized just so I could have
your entire time as student president was just to date Ingrid.
And I set up an event just so I could meet her, man. And then I told Bobby's girlfriend, Katie, if you invite Ingrid to ride along with us to the movie theater, because we went to go see a movie after the hangout event in the Ledford Center, then she'll accept that because she's new, and we could all ride together. And I set that up. I mean, it's regrettable.
And then I established a scholarship fund just for Ingrid.
But then we get to the movie theater, and we went and saw The Mummy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, The Mummy. That was what was playing at the time. I'm like, I'm going to buy the snacks. I'm going to buy popcorn and one large fountain drink. That way we'll have to share. That's my thinking. So she goes in and she sits down.
Your faulty thinking.
My faulty thinking completely, because Bobby and Katie were supposed to be kind of like helping me out, And so I stand in the long line. Everyone else is sitting in the theater. And I have the popcorn, I have the drink, and I get into the dark space. My eyes are adjusting, and I see Bobby and Katie down front. But where's Ingrid? And she was in another row, surrounded by like 3 or 4 guys on either side of her. So I just go down and sit next to Bobby. I'm like, thanks a lot, you jerk. What? Come on, man,
Help a guy out.
His idea, it caught on. So then there was like a huge,
right.
All the freshmen
Ingrid
came,
was...
And I was not aware of your subterfuge.
Ingrid was gaining a lot of attention that I had to wade through. Yes, it was...
Okay.
Notoriety.
At the time there, the proportion of male students to female students, it was definitely in my favor to have too much attention.
Well... Anyway, that it is what it is, and that's what happened.
So, in addition to clowns and polar bears, Aaron Miller might be out your window.
I am happily caught.
I could talk about your background all day, but there's other things I want to talk about too. Fast forward a lot. Tell us about your kids now.
Yes, we have Noah, who is 15, going on 16, and then Jocelyn, who is 14, and Kensington, who is 12. And to sum up, I mean, they are the loves of my life. And other than Christ and Aaron, and I love them so much. I love being devoted to them. And
when we first moved here, they were 5, 4, and 2. And so this has been what they've always known. We talk about North Carolina, we talk about back east, Washington, D.C., Alaska, but like this is home to them.
Yeah, we've been here a decade now.
Almost 11 years.
That's amazing.
In June, yeah.
And Noah just got... or is about to get his license, right? He's got a permit?
Yes. That is a thing now.
That's a thing, right?
That is a thing.
That is a sanctifying thing.
Yeah.
It's like a real faith and trust and
Yeah.
make sure I belong to Christ, thinking as he is driving me around town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Which thankfully I'm assured and I'm good, but...
Ready to step into heaven at any moment. Yeah. So you guys did move from the East Coast. Your kids might not remember that. That was certainly a significant event for us to come from North Carolina out here. What was that like for you guys? What was really wonderful about coming to California? What were some of the challenges in that process?
I think we were ready for a change around that time of life. And so it was exciting to change venue of ministry. It wasn't easy. We did enjoy North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So it was a mixed bag, obviously. It always is. But we were in a different stage of life, too. As parents, we were younger. We just were getting into our 30s, and so.
Because our kids were younger and they were not in school yet, it made it easier to move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It wasn't like they were older and we were kind of
pulling them up,
digging them out of their already established context. Yeah.
Hey everybody, Ryan Fogelsong here, letting you know that tickets for Grace Theater's spring production of Crossing Delancey by Susan Sandler, happening April 21st through the 23rd and 28th through the 30th, are now available. The show is set in Midtown Manhattan, where young single girl Isabel runs a cozy bookstore. Hilarity ensues as she finds herself forced to choose between fantasy and reality in her quest to find a happily ever after of her own. Get your tickets at the link in the description. Hope to see you there.
Let's talk about what it's like to be a ministry family. So what are some ways that you guys have guarded your family, right? Ministry can be a black hole. It just takes all the resources. So what are some ways you've intentionally guarded family time, prioritized time together? And then Ingrid, I'd love to hear whatever you're willing to share about what it's like to be a pastor's wife. I think there's some really wonderful things about that. There's some obvious challenges that come with that as well.
So our ministry adventure began very young. First year of college.
Yeah.
When we were...
You were 18, I was 19.
18, 19, Aaron's first pastor position. Were you
South
20?
Boston, yeah.
Were you 19,
I was
20?
19, yeah.
So this truly is the only path we have ever known. So that's a blessing in a way, because we don't have anything to compare it to. This is all I've known. And in that sense, there hasn't been any abrupt surprises. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that we were able to start young. But we definitely do feel the need to protect evening time and to set boundaries from other sources coming in.
Yeah. And sometimes, and Jared, you know this, you can get into the rut of your pastoral perspective, and you can justify the long hours, the spontaneous hours. Sometimes it just catches you off guard if you're called away or there's a meeting that you need to be a part of that could happen in the evening sometimes. You can get into that rhythm and feel in sync with your personal life and your ministry. That doesn't mean that she is in sync. And so many times there's a misfire, and we have to make sure that we're connecting and we're communicating. And ministry, which is it's a high calling, and it is a great love and passion. It's who we are, right? Many times can cause us to sacrifice our wives. So guarding that is so important. And many times she has to help me protect that time because maybe my headspace is not there.
I think it's just been super important to be honest because Aaron, which is a blessing, can be so focused and he's needing to get stuff done. So for me to help him, I need to let him know when we're feeling left out or needing attention. So not to sit there and stew and be bitter, but just to say, hey, like I could use this. I could use a little extra time. The kids can. And so just blessing Aaron by being honest and letting him know how we're feeling or, how can we change this or tweak this, but just not letting it stew.
And Ingrid's really perfect for that in her personality. I mean, I wasn't kidding when I said earlier that she reminds me of Jesus and physically beautiful, so I was attracted to her. But as I got to know her, and she's always been this way, she speaks directly to a thing. And she does it in a way that's not so direct that you feel offended, that you feel like she's coming at you. She can just speak directly to a thing. And that's part of her beautiful personality. Like, I had to pursue her to earn her, right? But I didn't have to compete with her. She doesn't play games. She doesn't play any sort of emotional games. She's very direct. And in that approach, she's very gentle. And so we've always been able to talk about hard things, always, which I really appreciate.
That's incredible.
And we definitely don't always do that well, but we always apologize.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, I don't think you guys have ever done anything wrong, right?
No.
We have a perfect marriage.
I just
Perfect
want to
marriage.
set the record there. I'm feeling a
You can
little
find our
too high
upcoming
and
book.
mighty.
No, babe, you're good.
So having grown up in the church and then getting married, serving at churches that Aaron was a part of, Jill and I have talked about this, that one of the weird things, especially for her, is we never get to pick a church, right? It's never like we get to sit down and evaluate what church would be best for our family. It's just whatever church I happen to work at. So what's your experience been like having been a pastor's wife? What's been really beautiful about that, knowing that you're not just Aaron's wife, you're a person? What's been beautiful about that, and then what's maybe been a challenge?
Yeah, that is an interesting point you made where you're not picking your churches, you're being led on a path. As a pastor, you can't just say, I want to live in this specific town and to
Right.
go look for a job as a dentist. It's a very specific narrowing of a path. And you can fight against that and be frustrated, or you can accept it and realize there's great freedom and peace in being led. And so for that part, if you give into it, it's been a huge blessing. And I've loved doing that as a pastor's wife.
We know Aaron's skills and passions because we get to see those on display. God uses those to bless the church. I know it because I'm Aaron's friends. What are some things that like you're really passionate about? What are things that there's that confluence of how God has wired you and the skill that you have, and also things that kind of make you tick? What are some of those things?
I love being just behind the scenes. I'm okay just chilling in the background, being an introvert. I love being a helpmate. I love supporting Aaron, being there for my kids 100% of the time, they are my top priority, Christ, Aaron, and my kids. And I'm so happy there. And I'm thankful that I have had the time to do that as being a stay-at-home mom. And yeah.
That's awesome. How have you guys experienced friendship as a couple, just given that you've worked in a church since 19? We know that friendships can be difficult sometimes at church. Yeah. People are weird. So how have you guys experienced that together?
I say this all the time, right? Where pastors aren't weird, they just become weird. And I think part of why they become weird is because there's a little bit of a glass house lifestyle. And I don't think that is anything that you can change. It is what it is in ministry. And so sometimes you're not sure of the nature of certain relationships. You don't know if this is just a simple friendship or if there is a pastoral role that you need to play. And the answer is always yes in both and. And that can be a little clumsy sometimes. And pastoral ministry is either that calling that can that title that we wear, as pastor, can either tackle you in the face out of nowhere, or it can be that title that will immediately build up a wall with another person, depending on the situation. Because we've been in situations where, hey, I thought we were just, Ingrid and I, we were just hanging out with you, but out of nowhere, it seems like you need me to kind of be pastor in this moment, And then again, on the other side of the spectrum, it's like, no, you're a pastor, we're not going to go any further relationally. That's kind of a deal breaker. And that's just kind of the context we find ourselves in. And so our friendships, by and large, the closest relationships really are the people that we do ministry alongside of. And then it kind of spills out from there. But it's always been a cumbersome thing for us, wouldn't you say?
It's true. The blessing I see in ministry is just thinking of our move from North Carolina out here, is that we are brand new to a state, to a church. We don't have family here. It is just us. My parents live in Idaho now, his in Maryland. But when you're in ministry and you join a church, you have an instant support circle and group of friends amongst the other pastors and staff, which is so beautiful and unique in our profession, ministry, life calling that I'm so thankful for.
There's a real brotherhood and there's a real sense of family. And you talk to other pastors, that you might know elsewhere, and we have it very special here. It's very really unique what we have going on.
Yeah.
And we're thankful for that.
As a pastor, there's a sense in which you want to love and care for your family as a husband and dad, not merely as a pastor. How have you navigated that? My wife told me early on, I don't want to be pastored. I want you to be my husband, right? And I feel that with my kids too. So how does that shape the way you think about interactions with your family?
No, it gets in your head for sure. The older the kids have gotten, those moments present themselves in really unique and special ways. So like the kids might have a question about life or about the Bible or about what it is I do, like as they've developed as pastors' kids to understand what the church is all about, they'll just naturally be curious. And so you can parent, but you can parent in a pastoral vein, And I think it's all in the approach. Clearly, I'm not just sitting down preaching sermons to my children, but I am modeling, hopefully, what I am preaching. I was the guest speaker for the student ministries, had the Recall Conference. And it was just kind of uncanny because I look out in the audience and there's my son and my daughter.
Yeah, right.
And they're seeing me in a way that they've seen me preach before, but not in a context like that.
Yeah.
And I just know that part of the calling is, and this is not just for vocational pastors, this is for Christian believing parents. You're always shepherding. So in some ways, I kind of want to point it in the other direction and say to non-pastoral families, hey, you're a pastor in that calling, in that vein. You're shepherding, and so do it well to the glory of God.
That's good.
Yeah.
Having teenagers now, what are just some reflections of things you guys have learned about parenting the last few years? I'm asking for me because you're about 10 years ahead of me, so teach me your ways.
When they're under 5, under 10, you are just more physically exhausted, but it's more simple, right? But when they get to be junior high and they're developing those logical faculties and high schoolers, it's emotionally exhausting. And we are finding the need to be just extremely intentional in the evenings with our kids, with family dinners, with having conversations, just exploring their day, exploring their heart.
Being
and
curious
trying
about...
to write their emotions and trusting in fact and not feelings. And
being curious about who they are and what their perspective is. We are a little unique as a family in that we don't... our son is almost 16. He's 16 next month. And then we have a soon-to-be 15-year-old and soon-to-be 13-year-old, actually, at the end of the summer. But our kids don't have cell phones. And that's not changing anytime soon. Now, there are phones that we give them. They're cell phones that we give them if they go to practice or they're overnight somewhere and they need to get a hold of us. So we understand the importance of communication on those devices. But we just have a hard and fast rule that is, they want their autonomy. They want to experience the world as their peers are experiencing the world. But for us, we're just drawing a line in that sand for right now. And so they don't have access to social media. They don't have access to that sort of content. And that has led to a lot of helpful, frustrating, beautiful, ugly conversations and moments with our teenagers. But that's something that I think ultimately, in terms of the investment, and that's just one example, right? I'm just using the cell phones as an example. We're always seeing it as this is an investment in the next decade, in the next series of decades, right, into their lives. So I've said it before. It's a little bit of an adage I have. Our job is to shout at them in the next decade of life, right, and to invest that into them. And we're just praying for fruit. We're always praying for fruit, gospel fruit.
I think what you feel with older kids is just this impending clock. Like, wow, there's 3 or 4 years when you could potentially move out of our house. And that has been sobering and shocking and in a good way that we want to capitalize on that and not waste it.
It drives us to our knees for sure.
I think that's good for parents with younger kids to remember because the stage I'm in just feels interminable. Like there'll never not be graham cracker crumbs on the floor, even after sweeping.
I have a 16-year-old, and they will
Still
be more.
The crumbs?
It's crumbs everywhere.
Someday I'm gonna have such a clean floor.
It's where like with babies, like the saying, the days go by slow, but the years go by fast.
Yeah, I feel that.
The cheesy old saying. It's so true, though.
It's true. It's all the cheesy stuff that's really true. Share a little bit about what family worship has looked like for you guys. I think most of us who love Jesus and have kids want to do a good job with that. It's very easy to not be as consistent as we should be. I think sometimes parents just feel the guilt of that, of like we didn't do family devotions every night. Are we supposed to sit down and work our way through the Heidelberg Catechism and sing 4 hymns? What does that look like for you guys? Just give some encouragement.
I think I just really want to make this simple. It's only through conversation, right? Usually it's through conversation and asking good questions related to spiritual things. And so parents, just don't be legalistic with it. Don't make it a service. Don't overprogram it. Don't overly structure it. Now, if that's your family rhythm, great, then do that. But more is caught than taught many, many times, and it just needs to be a natural rhythm. And so when we prioritize the family dinner, and we're having good conversation, or the kids come back from recall, or it's the end of the week after a long week, at school. The kids go to Trinity Academy here, talking about the interactions they've had with friends, and just finding good ways to infuse then biblical principles in those conversations. That's the best way for us, and really families need to determine the best way for them. My kids are not, like, the best way forward for them is not to have them all sit down on the couch as dad stands before them with an open Bible and I speak to them. I mean, we've done family readings in the past. It's usually around Easter or Christmas, or maybe when we've made the dinner table a little bit more intentional, Thanksgiving. But they're not going to sit down and listen to dad preach a sermon to them, nor should they have to endure that. But
Please, Father, give us some more of your sermons.
A good natural conversation, exposing them to good resources. So, like, my son, it was the strangest thing, and he still occasionally does this. I caught him doing this the other day. He has really enjoyed listening to old Billy Graham sermons.
Really?
On YouTube. So
Yeah.
there's
Really?
lots of good things on YouTube.
So he's just like been going through Billy Graham sermons, and I'm intrigued by this. Because,
That's
for
interesting.
multiple reasons, right? And I'm just asking good questions. And so family worship, when we put it that way, it needs to be a little bit, for us, it needs to be a little bit more organic. It needs to expose all the right things, and it needs to cut out all the things that are harmful.
I'll definitely add on. We are definitely more spontaneous. We have different seasons in our life, picked more things to be intentional about, and then maybe that has changed. I will definitely confess that I have not been the best at orchestrating family dinners. But even if we just do one a week, but then in our drives to school, we are listening to the briefing, or we are talking and we are just connected with them wherever we go.
You're not listening to Magnify on the drives to school?
And Magnify. I definitely won't be listening to this episode.
Oh, you got to.
There ain't no
Good.
way.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's such a good word, because I think the legalism can so easily creep in, right? We have good desires for our kids, but sometimes we get fixed on a form, and then it's, I haven't been as consistent as I should. Does that mean I'm failing my kids?
There's definitely a mantra that has encouraged me where it's about the pursuit and not the method.
Yeah.
Because I am a person that can get bogged down with, like, should I be reading this book? Should I be trying it this way? And then I would get so discouraged. And it's like, I know what to do. I know how to love my family. I know how to be in God's word.
Yeah.
And so for us, we do so much better when we kind of cut out the noise and keep it simple.
And I will say the most effective family worship, because that's how we're just going to coin talking about this, it has to work in concert with the local church. So many times there can be an imbalance where there is nothing in the home and it's all put onto the church, or there's no interaction in the church and there's a high value of the family. It has to be biblically balanced, and there has to be that cooperation.
That's good. That's really good. Thank you guys for sharing that. What's just the sweetest part about the season of life that you're in? So it's a little bit different, obviously, than when you guys came. Both, where you guys are at, where your kids are at.
Yeah.
What's just really enjoyable right now?
We don't need a babysitter anymore.
Stop.
Oh,
Stop
that is-
it. Come on.
It is so beautiful. Leaving them home by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, not worrying about a babysitter. Just really getting into deep conversations with kids who are developing their brains and becoming young adults. It is so fun.
I'm better at this stage of life than when they were really little. Like, because now they're curious, they have autonomy, and I didn't really know what to do with. I'm like, yeah, I can clean that. I can keep them.
3-year-old Noah's like, what are
swallowing that.
counterfactuals?
Except for
and why
the
are we talking
vomit.
about
Yeah,
this?
right.
The vomit, he was, no, I can't. I'll puke.
I
That classic dad move.
I'm good with the diapers, but the vomit was like, oh man, I'm tapping out. I can't do this.
Gosh.
And right,
Kids can't hit a bucket to save their lives. Yep.
One extra sweet thing right now is we're not thinking about college yet for another
it's
couple
coming.
of years.
It's
But it's coming. And I'm a little scared about that.
Yeah.
And so I'll probably be leaning on some parents who have gone through that. And I know I don't need to have sinful anxiety about that. But
It is anxiety inducing, though, for a whole bunch of reasons,
it really
right?
is. So that will be the next season. But right now it's been a sweet time.
It has been very sweet.
been a
God's been
sweet time.
gracious. For
So
sure.
not that far ahead, because there's anxiety up there. What are you looking forward to in the immediate next season, this year?
Well, sometimes you're so in the moment that you forget to come up for air and look forward to something, in terms of, I look forward to like the present season. So I'm already looking forward to summertime, with the family. I'm looking forward to, we're going to travel again in the holidays, go up and be with Ingrid's family around Christmas time. So I'm like, those are the more immediate things I can't wait to experience with the kids again. Because we'll go to Idaho, we'll go sledding, we'll choose little adventures with the kids there. Beyond that, like more of the 3 to 5 years, just how the Lord's going to develop us as a couple, as parents, and in ministry. Looking forward to what the Lord might do. So
I'm definitely more of a spontaneous, live in the moment personality.
yeah, you
I
do
don't
better with
know
spontaneity than I do.
what.
It's a good balance,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh. I want to plan something, and she's like, let's just live in the moment. I'm like, I don't know if I can do
But
that.
I have definitely realized, yes, planning is important.
We have, as a married couple, learned to throttle one another in terms of like the pace, the speed, the spontaneity, the planning, like how we're gonna figure that out, And I feel like we do a good job. It's not always been easy, but fighting for oneness, it's a thing in marriage. No, we're 20 years, May 31st.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. That's what I am looking forward
Are you
to.
going to plan anything for that? 20 years?
Yes.
We'll at least go out to dinner.
Whoa.
For sure.
No. No, we are
We're
planning
thinking La Cocina. It's going to be nice, yeah.
Chick-fil-A.
I am very simple, and
She doesn't like being like, gushed over, or, she just wants to be simple, fly under the radar. And there's blessing in that. But occasionally you gotta, you gotta press into the pomp and circumstance.
you can't always be a party pooper.
Right. He's like, this is just pure sass. I'm like, no, it's nice. We should do this,
I do appreciate it about you guys because we're like that. I just want to stay home. Like, there's no greater gift in the world than not going anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
No greater gift. We talk about this with Landon and Jenny a little bit. Sometimes really well-meaning people say and do really dumb things. What would be some ways the Grace family could just encourage you guys as a family? And it's fine to say gift cards. That's great.
Sure. I'll say being here, we haven't felt discouraged, and we have loved being a part of Grace Baptist Church. And I feel like if we have a need or we're feeling downcast, the resources are there for us to tap into.
Yeah. Pastors are weird creatures that God calls into that life, and their families are pulled into that as well. But the best that the church can do in regards to how they interact with pastors is just be the church in every direction. The pastors will be blessed if the church is just a healthy church. It's an unhealthy church if all the church members are trying to make their way into the presence of a pastor just to have a relational connection to them. And sometimes that can come across as if people are pandering and they want to get close to a particular pastor of their liking, and that gets weird and can get competitive. I've seen that play out in not this church per se, but other churches. Even the churches I grew up in. People want a close seat to someone who, especially if it's a big church, someone who is one of their favorite pastors or preachers. And I would just say that's not healthy. You want to bless your pastors? Just be a healthy church in every direction. Be the type of people, be the hands and feet of Christ in your ABF. Engage the local body. Think through how to be an effective witness to your neighbors. Like, let's just be the church together. And in that, all the pastors included, we'll be caught up in the health of that.
Well, fine, man. I'm trying to get you a free vacation.
But I'm saying that will, listen, no, that will bless our children.
That's a good word.
Right? Because then our children will be exposed to that level of discipleship. Bless the pastors by being a blessing as a church to one another.
That's good. And we'll end on that. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ingrid, for coming in. You guys mean a ton to my family. You've been very good friends over almost a decade. We love you lots, and you're a blessing to our church. So thanks for taking time. And then I think it would be great to hear more bear stories at some point. So we'll try to get you back on here for part 2.
I'll try to prepare some.
Of the Bear Diaries.
Thanks, Jared. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to subscribe to Magnify Podcast so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. We would love to hear from you, so if you have any questions you'd like to ask in our mailbag, you can email them to magnify@gracebaptist.org, and we will answer them on the show. Thank you so much for streaming.